Hey guys, it's Bill and Bob from Springs and VR. Today we're going to be reviewing Maxi Pool Master VR, and we're going to let you know whether you should buy it or not. So stay tuned for that video right now. Alright guys, so this is how we're going to do it. We're going to break it down into four different categories. We're going to have graphics, control, gameplay, and most importantly, price. The way we're going to rate it is we're going to rate it from 1 to 5 stars on each. And we're going to give our honest opinion based on both of our gameplay. Now, full disclosure, the developer reached out to us, asked us if we could try the game out. So we were supplied a key, but that has not changed the way we're going to rate this game. Not swaying us at all. So with that said, I think we should start with graphics. Okay. Let's start with graphics. Yeah, so do you want my opinion on the graphics? Yeah, so give me your opinion. I'll let you know if I feel the same way. If you're going into this game looking for Skyrim VR graphics, then it's probably not the game for you, but nope. We were pleasantly surprised with the graphics. When you jump in there, they're what you would expect for the game you're playing. Yeah, so I understood what the developer was going for, and I think he met his mark as far as the graphics were concerned. Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the things that if you watch videos, and you may agree with me on this one, if you watch videos of people playing this online, the perspective, you get a false perspective because they're looking over on the table, and when they look over on the table, it looks like what you would see if you were playing a standard VR pool game. And I gotta be honest with you, when I looked it up, that's exactly what I thought was happening. I thought somebody was normal size leaning over the table and taking a shot. It's only when you get into the game do you really get the full scale of how small you are compared to the pool balls. Right, which we're going to get into that when it comes to the gameplay and the controls. But yeah, so for graphics, I thought the graphics were good. You could see that there was a poly count issue with the balls, that they weren't perfectly round, but they were round enough where it didn't distract you. Yeah. The tables were really nicely rendered. Mm-hmm. I thought the graphics were really good. There's the ball graphics. You'll see that you can change the colors and so on. So I thought graphically the game really held up. And the pool balls were easy to read. And if you've played other VR pool games, that could be a hindrance when you're trying to play. When you have to walk over to the ball to see what ball you're shooting for, it kind of distracts you from the game. So the balls were easy to read. So kudos for the graphics they put, the developer put in there. I think he did a good job on the graphics. Right, and we're going to rate each category from a 1 to a 5 star point system. So at the end, we'll let you know where we rank these. You want to give the graphics ranking first? We can. Right, what did you rank it? Because I know what I ranked it. I gave graphics for what it is and the style of gameplay it is. I wasn't expecting much as far as the graphics were concerned, but the graphics that I seen were good. The developer took time to render out people in the background. There was different people in the game. There was a girl standing by the board, which was a nice touch. I gave the graphics a 5, and it seems high, but for what the game is, I thought he did a really good job. All right, dude, I have to tell you, I ranked it a little bit differently, and I know this is going to be a shocker, but I did find that as you're playing the game, there's these 2 giant women to the left and the right of the scoreboard and your control. I found those 2 giant women, as much as I hate to say women are distracting in the game, but I found those 2 women very distracting. You did? Yeah, I actually did. Here's the reason why. They did these movements where when you actually won the game, or when you scored a point on some of the different modes, the game modes, right. They did these movements, and to me they were borderline corny if you focused on it, but you didn't have to focus on it. Gotcha. There was a few things, you could change the table and everything, but I mean, when you're looking at other games and you're putting it in perspective, I didn't rate it that high. I gave it a 4.5, which is not bad.
Okay, all right.
But I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Only because those few things were distracting to me. All right, so let's move on to controls.
Oh, controls.
Okay, so what did you think about controls in this game?
All right. The controls absolutely were probably what I feel the worst thing about this game. And let me just say, when you jump in to Maxi Pool Masters, you are lost when it comes to the controls. And this is where I think it would be nice if the developer added a few things, but we'll touch that toward our conclusion of the games. But the controls took a lot of time to get used to. They were very finicky, at least that's what I thought. And the pull cue mechanism could use a lot of improvement.
And dude, I'm gonna have to agree with you. When I look at my scoring, the way I scored it, my scoring, the controls were the lowest. And I had it, and I don't know if you had this same problem that I did, but you have the ability to flip up your wrist and see the like a flat rendered version of the over the top pool table, like a view of the pool table. And I appreciated that, and I went, okay. So if you're in cheat mode, and I'm going to call that cheat mode, it'll give you where that ball is going to land. Like,
there was an advantage to using that over the top view on your left hand.
I agree, there was an advantage, but this is where I found the controls to be a little bit wonky, because if you used that flat screen to play the game, then you might as well have been playing a 2D version of the VR game, because you were concentrating on, you weren't really looking at the table itself, you were looking at this visual aid on your hand, and you could also look at the big board and do the same thing, and I think it took away from the actual game. I stopped using it altogether because using that was taking me away from enjoying the game.
And I agree, if you find yourself using that too much, it will take away from the game, because now you're just playing a arcade-ish over-the-top pool game. So to stick with that 3D, hey, I'm a small little guy playing pool, you want to steer away from that mechanism. It's a handy thing to have, don't get me wrong.
Well, here I can tell you that I don't know if this is a bug or not, but there was times where I was using that to see if I had myself lined up, because it's very hard to visually see yourself if you're lined up when you're standing on the pool table, looking straight at pools, which gives you a different perspective of pool. There were times where I was pushing the trigger and it would accidentally hit the ball before I was ready. There was one other thing that was distracting, and it was the adjustment for the throw strength. Now, one of the game modes is, and we're going to get into this, is you get to throw the ball instead of using your standard, pull cue. And I found myself tinkering with the throw strength and trying to adjust it, and it's very hard to adjust that throw strength when you're in the game and you're maneuvering at the same time. I just found it very hard to do that. And another thing is that for controls, I found that the mechanics were a little off. There needed to be a little bit more weight on the ball. So when you're in that throw mode and you're like, let's just say that you are solids and and there is a strike ball in front of you, you tend to want a basketball, like, just arch it up and have it drop down. That's what you think is going to happen, but there's not enough weight on the ball to allow that to drop.
I could tell you the first couple times I threw that ball, I heaved it over the table. But, can I stop for a second and just say that, even though it sounds like we're ridiculing this portion of the game, please keep in mind that we do understand this is an early access game, and it's being developed. So we hope that if the developers of the game are watching this, they're taking it as a constructive criticism rather than us knocking the game, because it's really not.
And one other note is when we're talking about controls, we're talking about things we wish we had, but when we start to get into gameplay, you're going to realize that for us it didn't hinder the gameplay too much. But so
what did you give controls?
For that, I gave the controls a 3-star. I gave it 3.
You're right on the money where I put it.
So you put it at 3? Okay.
The controls were a 3-star. I got some suggestions for the developer at the end of the video that I think would help the controls. Me, being me, playing it I just constantly said I wish it would do this. So why don't we go ahead and move on to gameplay?
Okay. Now, gameplay is where things become fascinating because you have 4 different modes that you can play, and each one have, I believe it's 3 different levels: easy, medium, and hard. Throughout there, I stuck with medium the whole time. I wanted to get, and in between, see how the AI played against you. There was your standard 8-ball pool, which you just played standard 8-ball against an AI component. Now, there is multiplayer that looks like it's going to be added. It's an option. And we're hoping that they add multiplayer to it.
Absolutely.
There is a loop mode, which they put a hole in the center of the a round table, and they give you 3 balls. And the whole idea is just to get your ball and the other ball, I think, if it wasn't 2 or 3, in the center of the hole. Sounds easy, tremendously hard. Then there's instead of using your pool cue, you get to pick up the ball and throw the ball at the other balls. It's a standard 8-ball game, but you're throwing the balls at the other ball. And then there's another one that I had a hard time figuring out. I think it's Karum or Karum. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But the best I could figure out was the goal was to, there's 3 different modes in there. And one was, I believe, straight, and one was, you get to set up how many bumpers or how many times you can hit the side of the pool table. And I had a hard time figuring out how to play that 4th game. I did play it for a while. I did accidentally score twice, but I still couldn't figure out how I was scoring on there. So I can't really give my review on that version because I had a hard time figuring it out. I can tell you that I spent a lot of time in the other games.
Okay, I was actually going to save enhancements and recommendations to the end of the video, but with you explaining that, I want to throw out an enhancement that I think would really, really benefit this game. On the big wall,
I know exactly where you're going to go with this.
Yep, on the big wall where the women stand, right before the game plays, give people the rules of the game so that people are not sitting there trying to figure out exactly how the game plays. Because I didn't understand what the hole in the center meant. If there was a simple, this is how this game is played on the board, and then you click OK to continue, or maybe after your first shot it disappears, that would be huge. Because spending that much time trying to figure out the games was quite annoying. I mean, there was a fun aspect to it, but if you're jumping in it with trying to play the game, you're in a learning curve if you don't know what those modes mean.
Yeah, I actually went on the interwebs and looked up that Karam one to see if there was something I was missing, and that actually ended up being more confusing than me just trying to figure it out in the game. So, navigating the table, I thought was easy.
Yeah, that was easy enough.
I thought I liked how you could jump up on the edges of the table and get a look down at a different perspective. I thought the music, he added enough music where it didn't become redundant. I wish there was a way where you could possibly add your own music, but at least the music wasn't distracting.
It fit the game. It really did. It was just enough to fit the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't over the top. It wasn't annoying. There's certain games where the music is just like, oh my God, can I turn off the music? This wasn't that type of game, but it really fit the game.
Now, how did you do with the mechanics? Like, did it take you long to jump in and really start playing?
All right, let me just say that the options were easy to get to and easy to configure, so that wasn't horrible. But the cool mechanics was, like I said, it was a learning curve. It was a challenge at first.
Right.
But here's the key thing though. Once you got used to it, you could start shooting your ball pretty well. I can tell you though, if you have a shaky hand, it will show up in this game.
Oh my gosh, dude! Yes.
It will make the game kind of difficult, kind of cumbersome at times, and very frustrating if you have a shaky hand, because you're a small person trying to control a big ball. Every slight little movement factors into the gameplay.
You'll see in the footage that when you're trying to take your shot, there's a strength meter or power meter that's going to start to bubble up off of your cue ball.
Right.
They tell you how much power you're going to use, and if you don't think you have it lined up properly, you can move your controller away and start over.
Right.
But I would have rather have a meter where I can lock on.
Yep. So rather than using, I think it was, if I remember right, it was your grip button. Your grip button would lock the ball, and then your trigger button would allow that circle to pulsate in and out, giving you the strength. If they would have just changed it to lock the ball and then allow you to maybe drag your hand back to position your strength,
right,
I think that would have gave you a lot more control over your shot.
Right. I agree. Now, however, can I just say that as I started playing the game, because my perspective was really thrown off, I'm like, wow, this is really weird. I'm standing on the pool table. Visually, you're usually looking over the ball, so you're kind of lining up your shot, knowing where a ball is going to hit the side and bank. You know, you could do some bank shots. In this game, you have to throw all those rules out the window. And I said, oh, you know what? This is going to be a horrible experience. And I have to tell you, I was in it for about 10, 15 minutes and really started to enjoy myself.
Yeah, I mean, even with the mechanism the way it was, and maybe the developer did that on purpose to add a bit more challenge to the game. But I agree with you. Once you get the mechanism down, it starts to get easier and the game really becomes fun to play.
Now, I do have to say that in the throwing mode, I think there's a weight issue. Because you think you're going to throw it at one way, and because it seems to float out of your hand so quickly. But once you get used to that, you start to have a good time even with that mode.
Right.
So I didn't penalize this part of the game. I don't know if you want to add any more to the gameplay, but once you jump into it, the gameplay is actually very, very fun.
No, I don't want to add. I think we covered everything. My main point of gameplay is if you're going to buy this game, give it a chance. Give it a little while to learn the controllers.
Right.
And once you do, I think you will find the game more entertaining to play.
So
it will frustrate you at first, but
so if we're going to give the developers any ideas of what we would like to see, I would think some weight on the ball would be nice. An arch, if you have the ability to arch over a ball in throw mode, it would be nice to see a visual representation of where that ball is going to land. I think that would be a good idea if you can add weight to the ball. I had a great time playing it, but there's times where you play it and you go, oh, I wish I could do this.
Right.
And those are the type of things that
and the shooting mechanism. If they changed it
the
to
power
allow you
meter
better control from the power meter. The power meter can be very hard to get down. Even when you think it's giving you a certain amount of power, it tends to throw you off with the power that it does give. So that's why I'm suggesting it to allow for you to control the power meter.
Yeah, I agree. So for me, I'm going to give the gameplay 4 stars is where I'm landing it. And I have to tell you, dude, for me, if this had multiplayer and I could jump in and play with you, I'm going to give this close to a 4.5.
Yeah,
I would have to bang that up right away.
And I'm right there with you. I gave it also 4 stars. Multiplayer would actually put it over the top as far as gameplay is concerned. So
agree.
But it depends on how the multiplayer is, because we've seen really bad multiplayer.
Yep.
In certain games. So it depends on how the multiplayer gets developed and placed into the game. But as of right now, I give it 4 stars as well.
All right. So let's move on to price, because I have to tell you, very few games for me it changes the way I look at the game based off of the price. And this is one of those games that had me do that. Exactly had me do that.
Right there with you. When you look at the price, this is where everything that we just talked about would be just icing on the cake.
Right.
Because for the price of $2.99, think about it, that's $2.99 at the taping of this video. You can't beat that.
No.
You can't. If you like billiards or any kind of strategy game, for $2.99, it's definitely worth picking up.
I can tell you for $2.99, for that price, there was a lot of replay value in this game. I found myself jumping back in. A matter of fact, even after I filmed all the different modes for this game, I found myself second on the leaderboard because I was testing it so much. I forget who the number 1 is on that leaderboard, but I'm coming after you. You know who you are. It's probably the dev.
I could be wrong, but when I first played the game, I don't believe there was a leaderboard.
No, he added that.
An update from
there was an update.
Yeah,
And
okay. Which is
he
good
added the
because
leaderboard.
and that just means that the developer is actually still developing the game. It's not one of those ones that are going to get banned. So
Right.
the leaderboard was a nice touch. I was surprised to see it. I was looking at it going, is that new? But yeah, the leaderboard was a nice touch.
Yeah, so I'm thinking to myself, hey, I can, I'm old school. I can probably go through the cushions of my couch, go find, a few dollars in my car for $2.99. I got a lot of enjoyment out of the game already for the $3 price tag for the $2.99.
It's definitely worth the price of a cappuccino to pick this game up.
So yes, so skip a cup of coffee, and you'll be fine. And then buy the game the next day. Just go with your regular 3 cups, 2 cups, or whatever. For me, 4 cups. But skip a cup of coffee. Grab the game. I don't think you're gonna if you like pool, because it's a different perspective on pool. I think you're gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of the different gameplay, and being able to toss the balls. I have to tell you, was a surprising hit for me. Yeah. I really enjoyed that game, even though it could use some work. I really enjoyed throwing the balls and trying to get it in the pockets. Right. So for me, the price was an easy 5 stars, 5 out of 5 for the price.
I mean, hands down, you can't beat this game at 5 stars. So I gave it 5 stars as well. So
yeah, I agree. So overall, what are your thoughts on the game, and what did you score it?
I got to tell you, overall, the conclusion, I'm going to give Maxi Pool Master VR a 4-star rating. And I'm going to tell you, it was a surprising title. When I first jumped into it, and when I watched video, I was like, oh, it's just a normal pool game. But when I jumped into it, it took me a little bit to learn the controllers, but then it grew on me. The more I played it, the more I liked it. And it was one of those things where I was like, this is a really fun title. Right. $2.99 is definitely worth the price for this game. And I could tell you, if you're thinking of purchasing it, jump on that bandwagon now. I don't know, and I have no insight, but I'm going to guess that if the developer adds multiplayer, that price could increase. I'm going to guess. Because, multiplayer costs money to run those servers. So, but at $2.99, it was a surprising fun title. It did need some improvement, but we touched on that. I mean, and it's in early development stages, so who knows? All these things could be touched on. I thought it was a surprising title. Yeah, I've seen worse games that were charging a lot more.
Dude, let me tell you, there has been some purchases that I made in VR games where I go, I want to support the developer, but to me, this is not.
Right.
It's just not worth the game. This game here, and from what I understand, this developer has made, this is not his first game. I think he's also made another game. This, to me, the $3 is well worth the purchase of this game. I was very surprised. When this is how I thought. When I jumped into that game and I stood on that pool table, I'm like, there's no way. I enjoy pool too much to play this game, this style. This is not my style. I am not going to enjoy the game. And then I found myself playing it to give it a fair shot, and I was pleasantly surprised. So for the $2.99, I got a lot of enjoyment out of this game. I've already spent hours in the game, and for me, the $2.99, just to spend the hours going through the 4 game modes, I would have spent more of that just watching a movie, just going to the movies.
Yep.
And I spent way more than 4 hours in this game already. So for me, I have to give the game, just because of the price itself and how much enjoyment I got out of it, I have to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Also, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that is worth picking up.
Right. And if the dev is watching this review, if you add multiplayer mode to this is one of those games where I can tell you, for us, our style of gameplay, we are always looking for a game where we can jump in and jump out, play a quick game, have some fun playing it, and jump out. And this is that type of game where we look forward to jumping in. There were some other games where we did that with. We no longer play them because they crammed so much into that game. And I won't name these games, but they crammed so much into the game, and they started to do cross-platform, and they took the enjoyment out of the game. And for us, this is that simple jump in, jump out, It wasn't about the graphics. It was about the gameplay, and I thoroughly had a very good time with this game.
This game definitely fit the bill, and in this case, it was 3 bills. So
yeah, I agree, dude.
Yeah. So so that's going to wrap up this video. It's a thumbs up for me and Bob. 4-star rating. I would say go ahead and try it. I mean, you can spend your money on a lot worse.
So for me and Bill, we give this a recommend. We give it a 4 stars. We recommend it, and I think that'll wrap up this review, right?
Yep, it's going to wrap up this review. We got another one coming up.
All right.
So if you like this review, please make sure you comment. Tell us what you didn't like about it. We're always adjusting our videos based on criticism, so tell us what you didn't like about it. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did. Give it a like. Give it a comment. And then hit the bell notification to get notified for our upcoming videos.
The channel is fairly new. We're trying to hit 100 subs, so if you can, be generous, hit the sub button. We love you for it, and we're going to make constant content. You're going to see a bunch of content going up, another review going up shortly, so hit the sub button, and we appreciate you watching. Yep. So until the next time, I'm Bob.
And I'm Bill, and up here you will find some other videos, so please watch.
All right, guys. Till the next time, we're out of here.